On your right! They've got a rifle!
Find another angle! Area's clear.
Great.
Hear that?
Let go! Now!
Move up!
Oh, fuck! Fucking ambush! Push in!
Gotcha! Amber!
I could use a warm-up.
Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to talk about why, in my opinion, Saturnine of the Siege of Terror series in the Warhammer 40k universe is probably at least one of the top 5 Warhammer books ever written. And I don't say this lightly because, spoiler alert, Abnet killed off Loken through a backstab by Erebus. I consider that guy a motherfucker. The reason why, I should say, spoiler alerts for the book Saturnine as well. I'm going to go into a bunch of plot threads it ties off, and just the reasons why it's so good. But, alright, let's just start at the start. It ties off the Tybalt Mar Shadrach Medicine story arc. The reason why this was so good, because the Shadrach Medicine story arc was so good. Basically, the Shadrach Medicine was a survivor of the drop site massacre who forged together a bunch of the massacred legions and fought a sort of guerrilla war against the traitor forces' flanks as the traitors were marching to Terra. To do this, he used a bunch of the separate Shattered Legion forces' strengths, like Raven Guard's espionage and stealth tactics, the Salamanders' flamethrowers and terminators, and the Iron Hands' like heavy weapons and Techmarine specialities and all that sort of thing. He forged them together to fight a guerrilla war. It was just a really good arc, and he had like a ton of near successes basically. He nearly assassinated like 3 Traitor Primarchs at one point, with like a series of Fire Raptor assaults at one of their meetings. And it was basically only war packs that allowed them to survive. Like, it was very nearly successful. He very nearly stopped the heresy just by himself. Eventually, the traitor forces couldn't ignore him anymore and had to divert forces from their march on Terra to combat him, at which point he was betrayed by his own legion, the Iron Hands Iron Fathers, and left out to hang during a battle. Because of that, he tried to do a spear point attack on Tybalt Ma, the dude who was leading the Horus Legion forces, and he was subsequently captured and executed. That same dude, Tybalt Ma, was subsequently selected for a spear point attack on what was thought to be a weak point underneath the Saturnine wall, which was a deliberate trap by the Loyalists, and he was ambushed and executed by Loken, his former Horus Legionary, which was just a brilliant end to the story arc of Tybalt Ma, Shadrach Medicine, and Loken. Alright, the next reason why this book was so great is the double 1v1s of Dawn versus Fulgrim, and at the same time it has Sigismund versus Eidolon. So, to start with, Dawn versus Fulgrim is pretty much unearned privilege versus stoicism, with Dawn being stoicism, and Fulgrim being the unearned god privilege, basically. Basically, Fulgrim is a demon prince of Slaanesh, which is the pleasure chaos god, and Dawn is basically the Praetorian of Terra. He's in charge of the defense at the Siege of Terra. He's like massively outnumbered, but he's like a defensive genius, and he's just wreaking absolute chaos on the traitor forces. Fulgrim got roped into this attack by Perturabo. He viewed it as like an easy way to gain a bunch of glory, pretty much. He initially had a bunch of success taking this like small section of wall because it was mostly manned by humans, and humans versus Space Marines is not much of a match. So basically he assaulted the wall with these big mechs using a ton of his noise marine shit, which basically burst the humans' eardrums, made them unable to hear anything or fight back. He also used war packs to fuck up their comms. Basically he took the wall. Dawn takes it back with a counterattack, basically.
In that shop!
The fight pretty much consists of Dawn beating down Fulgrim, but during the fight Fulgrim thinks he's in this superior position because he's basically on the winning side at this point, because the traitor forces outnumber the loyalist forces by like massive amount. Dawn basically says nothing the whole fight while he's like beating him up. Eventually there's like a crack in the stoicism, and he points out that Fulgrim's an idiot. He committed all of his best forces to an attack, which is basically getting shut down. He did this because he's a fool. He got played by his brothers and all this sort of thing. And all this while he's like beating Fulgrim with like a sword and a shield, like shield bashing him in the face and shit. This is good because it like plays directly against the like Fulgrim's weakness, which is like his tremendous narcissism. And the fact that he has been made to look like a fool by basically acting as a diversion to a sneak attack, which was the ambush under the Saturnine gate. He was basically getting used as a diversion by his brothers. And Dawn pointing him out that he's not useful for much else other than a diversion, like shatters Fulgrim's like fragile narcissistic ego, and he basically just quits and leaves the Siege of Terra. This is like despite the fact that Fulgrim is essentially immortal because he's a demon prince, and he could have like stayed there and attritionally beaten Dawn like eventually. While this is all happening, Dawn's best son Sigismund is facing off against, I don't know if you'd call him Fulgrim's best son, but he's kind of Fulgrim's leader of forces, Eidolon. Eidolon's just kind of like this aristocratic, unearned hereditary monarchy marine. Like, everyone kind of thinks he's a bit shit. At one point, Fulgrim cuts his head off and then sews it back on, and then revives him with warp magic. And yeah. So he's not considered that good, but by this point, because of warp hacks, he's sort of considered to be not quite Primarch level, but pretty good in terms of melee. Sigismund's just the best loyalist melee fighter, basically. And it winds up with Sigismund tanking one of Eidolon's shots, stabbing him through the chest, and then booting him off the wall, which is just fucking badass. So, like, awesome cathartic violence arcs there with Fulgrim versus Dawn and Sigismund versus Eidolon. Alrighty, the third reason why this book is so great is it ties up Little Horace Axeman's what would you say, guilt paranoia arc, because during the first major betrayal by the traitors, when they were purging the loyalist forces in their own legions, he killed one of his fellow brothers in the Mournival. The Mournival's just like a sort of a leading committee for the Sons of Horus. He killed Tarek Torgadon in a 1v1 while Loken was fighting Abaddon, and since that point he has been hearing like breathing behind him. He's been super paranoid in his off moments, that sort of thing. It's like his like guilt that he picked the wrong side. He picked the traitor forces over the loyalist forces with like Loken and that. Saturnine ties up that arc because Little Horace is part of the spear point that goes underneath the Saturnine wall to try and exploit the weakness. It's like a massive attempted sneak attack, which was actually like a trap. And he, part of all the traitor forces in that sneak attack, basically just get cut off and massacred. He gets killed very specifically by Loken after he survives the initial ambush and sort of runs away. Loken eventually catches up to him and kills him, which is just, it just ties off that story arc. It's brilliant. Loken avenges Tarek Torgadon.
Go around!
It also has a cool last man stand thing with Camber Diaz, just a random Imperial Fist sort of leader. He was sort of overseeing the blockade of Mars after Mars was like subverted and had like a traitor force sort of take over, do like a little proxy conflict thing. Basically he's getting attacked by world eaters. He's sword and shield warrior. He just jams his shield in the dirt and says, I'm not going to take a step back. He kills like 3 or 4 world eaters and then dies. It also has Sanguinius like 1v1 a warlord titan. Basically, a Warlord Titan is the biggest piece of armor and artillery you can get, and a little winged Primarch manages to take one out by basically flying into its head. It also has, basically, in the same failed attack that is a massive trap by the Loyalists to try and kill the tip of the spear of the traitors, Abaddon basically has a bit of a breakdown in faith over his command structure because of all the influence and corruption of the warp. So it's basically here he starts his arc towards independence, and his eventual formation of the Black Legion. He's basically losing faith in his command structure, his father, and all the influence of the warp and everything. And he basically is starting to realize that he himself wants something for himself rather than he's fighting for all these forces that are just kind of using him. And yeah, that's like the basis of the ideology of the formation of the Black Legion. A lot of people don't fully understand what the Black Legion is. They basically think Abaddon's ruling with an iron fist. Not quite. He's basically approaching other traitor marines, and they're all basically fighting for themselves, fighting for their own sort of legion, rather than deliberately trying to kill the Emperor and all this sort of thing. They want to see something for themselves that they themselves can control. They're not fighting for a greater force. So it's more like individualism in the face of kind of totalitarian, at least authoritarian imperialism, which is basically the Emperor and all that sort of thing. He's kind of a rebel. It's sort of like an Ubermensch type deal, where it's Abaddon's own individual will to power. Like, this is the point in the arc where he's just starting to realize that all these greater forces are not what they're cracked up to be, basically. So yeah, Saturnine's a great book, full of great lore moments. In my opinion, it's probably equal or maybe possibly slightly worse than Echoes of Eternity, but Echoes of Eternity was like really, really good. But yeah, very, very great book just on its own, especially if you like Warhammer. Full of great lore moments, full of great cathartic violence, and it ties off like 3 or 4 story arcs. It's like just really good book. Just to put it into perspective on how important the story arcs it ties off are, a lot of those story arcs were like started in like novels 50 novels ago. Like the first 3 novels was the betrayal of the Loyalist forces and Horus's like initial turning to the warp and all that sort of thing. By the 3rd novel, that's the initial Istvan virus bombing, where the traitor forces purge the Loyalist elements of their legion. To put it in perspective, that's where the Horus Aximand arc starts, basically. So, as far back as then, which is like 50-something novels, like, they are well set out, well-structured story arcs, and it's literally across like 50 between 300 and 500 page novels. So, it's a lot of reading.
Go around! Get the side!
Let go! Now!
Push in! Move in! You got it! Zach! Move up! Todd!
Fucking ambush!
Push in!
Gotcha!
Let's get this done! Spread out. Look around. Don't take any chances.
Nice shot!
Vales verga.